Hey guys, it's Bex. In today's video, I am going to be talking about the 24 books that I want to read in 2024. Hi Frodo. There are more than 24 technically because some of them I included like series and some I didn't. I'm not really sure why I did that. Like there's a couple or maybe just one duology and I counted that as 2 separate books. You'll see what I mean. And before we get started with the 24 books, I guess I will also mention, if anyone cares, that I got engaged on Christmas Eve. So if you see the ring, that's why. So super exciting, but let's just start. I kind of started with series and I'm going to be bouncing around between like books that I actually own and books I don't own yet. There's a couple that are on Kindle, so I know that I probably won't buy them physically unless I really love them or something. But the first books I'm going to be talking about are 2. I'm going to talk about them together, but I did count them as 2 books, and that is Divine Rivals and what's the second book called? Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. And I added both because I believe, did Ruthless Vows like just come out? I think so. I could be wrong. I haven't really been paying super close attention since I haven't read the first book yet, but I am for sure gonna be reading Divine Rivals in January because it is because it is the monthly pick for January in the book club I'm a part of. And I am not going to be buying it physically, at least right now, because it is on Kindle Unlimited. The only thing I really know about these books, or the first one, is that it's a historical fantasy, I believe. And it's not too heavy on the fantasy. And it's romance. But it's, I think, about a war, and this girl writes like letters on a typewriter, a magical typewriter, to send to her brother or something, and then it ends up being that this guy gets the letters and writes back to her, and I think she like doesn't know it's him for a while or something like that. That's really all I know about it, but I have heard absolutely great things and I'm super excited to read it in January. And then obviously Ruthless Vows. I guess I won't read it if I don't like Divine Rivals, but I have a feeling that I will, so I added that book as well. And then the second book, or more like a lot of books, but I just counted it as one, is the Shatter Me series. And I'll be making a separate video of like all the books that I got for Christmas / like a book haul soon. But I got these for Christmas from my fiance, and you guys all probably know what they're about, have heard of them. I, again, don't know too much about what they are. They are, I believe, a young adult fantasy where the main character, her touch is fatal, I believe. So if she touches anyone, they die, which is obviously a problem. And there's romance involved. Pretty dang sure I'll be getting to these this year, or next year I should say, because I really want to read them. Where should I put these? Right there, I guess. And then the next 2 books I, again, did as separate books because it's just a duology. And again, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to like the first one enough to continue with the second one. But that is Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. These are fantasy, and I believe they are about this criminal prodigy, Kaz.
And he is offered a chance at a deadly heist that can make him rich beyond his wildest dreams, but he can't pull it off alone. So he gets this crew made up of a convict, a sharpshooter, a runaway, a spy, a heartrender, don't know what that is. Oh, magic, okay. She has magic. A thief. And I guess they, do the heist. And it says Kaz's crew are the only ones who might stand between the world and destruction if they don't kill each other first.
So, yeah, heard that they are really good, especially Crooked Kingdom, and I've heard there's like really good found family in there. And then the next ones are also series that I just counted as one. These I'm really excited about, like really, really excited about, and that is because everyone loves them, I feel like. And look, everyone has read them at this point except for me, so I feel really left out. And they are a young adult, I believe, fantasy with some romance in there, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses series. There's not really much to say about those. Everyone knows them. Again, I'm kind of going in blind, which I like. So that's going to be a theme throughout all these books, besides maybe a couple. But those I definitely want to get to in 2024 because I just feel left out. So, and then this is a series that I have started and have one book left, sort of. And I really want to read it before I like forget about kind of what happened in the other books and the characters and stuff like that, because I feel like that could be a problem if I wait too long to read it. So that is the third book in the Red Rising series, Morning Star. There's like another series that's kind of like a continuation of the series, I think, or maybe it's just part of the same world. I don't really know. I read Red Rising and Golden Sun at like the second half of 2023, and I really, really loved them. So far, it's a 5-star series for me, and it's probably gonna keep being that unless I hate this one. And it's not horribly large. I think this one's like 500 pages. And they do take a little bit more brain power to read, and there's also quite a few words on each page. But this is a sci-fi, young adult technically, but that's up for debate. But there's heavier topics in it, or, well, I should just say people die a lot and stuff like that. It's not really for the faint of heart or for super young people. Yeah, sci-fi, and the first book, Red Rising, is compared to like the Hunger Games but in space, which is pretty accurate. So yeah, definitely want to get to this book before I forget too much. It just has to be the right time to read it because, like I said, it just takes longer to read and you kind of have to be in the mood for it. And then I recently got this next book, and it is the first book in a trilogy, and that is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. Pretty chunky book. It's 500 pages. Like, what? Look at that. These are both like 500 pages. These pages must be just extremely thin. Anyway, so it's not horrible, actually, but this, all I really know about it is that it is it like a fantasy sci-fi about superheroes? It says,
the Renegades are a syndicate of prodigies, humans with extraordinary abilities, who emerged from the ruins of a crumbled society and established peace and order where chaos reigned. As champions of justice, they remain a symbol of hope and courage to everyone, except the villains they once overthrew. Nova has a reason to hate the Renegades, and she is on a mission for vengeance. As she gets closer to her target, she meets Adrian, a renegade boy who believes in justice and in Nova. But Nova's allegiance is to a villain who has the power to end them both.
okay, I've also heard that there is like subplot of romance in it. I don't think that's a super big part of this, which is fine. I've heard really good things about this series, and this is the first one. It's the only one I own so far, but I will definitely buy the others if I like it. And then another one I don't own yet, but it is also on Kindle Unlimited. I have just like added it, downloaded it to my Kindle, and that is The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, and that is also a trilogy. I don't know if there's gonna be more books, to be honest. I had to even Google if it was a solo book or not because I couldn't remember, but there's 3 books right now. I think the second one is like more of like a novella. I also don't really know what it's about. I have my Kindle here because I figured this would be the easiest way to like look up books and what they're about, because I use my phone to film. Oh, it's just gonna open the whole book. Oh my, okay.
How do I get, I don't know how to work this thing. I just got it. Don't know how to work this thing. I really don't.
Okay, I literally just had to Google how to get out of a book on Kindle. I feel stupid, but I figured it out after I Googled it. So, this book, The Serpent and the Wings of Night, is about vampires. The adopted human daughter of the Nightborn vampire king, Aurea, carved her face in a world designed to kill her. Her only chance of becoming something more than prey is entering the Kajari, the legendary tournament held by the goddess of death herself. But winning won't be easy. To survive, she's forced to make an alliance with a mysterious rival. He's dangerous, he's a ruthless vampire, an enemy to her father's crown, and her greatest competition. She finds herself oddly drawn to him. There you go. That's what it's about. I thought it was about vampires, but then I was like, she has other books too, and I get them confused. So there's that one. That took a while. And now my phone might die. Love it. And I'm not even halfway. Next book, Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I am also really, really excited to read this book. obviously that's a theme, but this is one of the books that I'm more excited to read. I really want to read it like soon, probably in January, but we'll see. And this is a young adult fantasy romance about this girl that is an ordinary in a world where there are elites who have powers. She doesn't have any, and there's this competition where the elites compete, and she somehow gets herself in the competition even though she is not an elite and doesn't have any powers, and she finds herself among this guy who is like the prince and her enemy, and he is an elite and hates ordinaries or something like that, and yeah, romance ensues. Such a pretty book too. And then I'm gonna go into some, well, this is technically part of a series duology as well, but this is like the thrillers. I kind of tried to make this a little bit cohesive, but it didn't really work out. But The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. There's also The Housemaid's Secret, which is the second one. I only have this one. I only put this one on my list, but I'm probably gonna read the other one too. This is a thriller about this housemaid who gets a job in this creepy house or something, and this family is crazy, and her door only locks from like the outside. Yeah, her attic bedroom. Apparently crazy stuff happens. The plot twists are really good, so I love me a good mystery thriller. And it's also short and sweet, like under 300 pages, or a little over 300 pages. Then another thriller is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. And this is more of a newer find, and I haven't heard too much about it, but what I have heard great things, and I heard it's just crazy twists. I think it's about this guy who wakes up in like almost like an alternate universe where his wife isn't really his wife, his kids aren't really his kids, and his world is just not the one that he knows. His life isn't the one that he knows. So, sounds super good. And then the next one is another thriller, and that is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I really want to read some books by her, and I think that's a good one to start with. I've heard she's like the queen of plot twists. That one is about, I think, this couple, and the girl in it maybe has facial blindness, so she pretty much can't like differentiate people from each other, I think. And her husband win a trip or something somewhere, and I don't really know, but that's Rock, Paper, Scissors. And this one I've been wanting to read for so long. It's been on my shelf for like a year, more than that, and I keep saying I want to read it, and I think it's even been on one or two of my monthly TBRs, but I haven't gotten to it yet, and that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Again, most of these books are super popular, super viral. That's where I hear about them. And this book is about this girl that seemingly randomly decides to shoot her husband in the face and murder him, and then she doesn't say another word about it, and she gets sent to a psychiatric unit, and there's this psychotherapist who is really interested in her and the story, and he goes to see her and tries to get the kind of story out of her, why she did it. So it sounds super interesting. That's it for thrillers. Then I have two books by the same author, and I own one of them. Okay, sorry, my cat just broke something. What was I saying? I have two books by this author, Gabrielle Zevin, on this list, and this one is The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry, and it's just a short little 200-ish page book. I think it is like a literary fiction, and it's about this guy, A.J. Fikry, who he owns a bookstore, and one of his most prized possessions gets stolen, and then he finds a mysterious package that appears at the bookstore, and it gives Fikry the chance to make his life over and see everything anew. And it just sounds super cute. I've heard it's very moving and heartwarming and would possibly make you cry. I will probably cry. I cry a lot in books. And then the other book by this author that I want to read is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Same genre. I think it's just like literary fiction or just general fiction. And I believe that one is about these two people. I think it starts out when they're like kids and it follows them throughout their whole life. And kind of the main plot of it is that they're making video games. Sounds kind of interesting, but I've heard it's really good and people love her writing. And then another like general fiction, literary fiction, maybe even historical, I think it's actually historical fiction, is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. And I feel like this was more, maybe not an OG, but one of the more OG, like viral TikTok books that people loved and raved about, and takes place, it says, in France, 1714.
And in a moment of desperation, a young woman named Adeline meets a dangerous stranger and makes a terrible mistake. It will be 300 years before she stumbles into a hidden bookstore and discovers someone who can remember her name. And suddenly everything changes again.
So I believe Addie, she makes a deal with someone and it ends up letting her live forever, hence the 300 years. But in exchange for that, I think no one can remember her throughout her life. I feel like it's more like a character-driven story rather than plot. And I love plot-driven stories, but I also love character-driven stories, which I feel like not everyone does, and maybe that's why some people don't like this book, but I feel like majority of people love it. It's one of their favorite books of 2022, 2023. I believe this will also be my first V.E. Schwab book, and there's other ones that are definitely on my radar, but this is the one that made the list. And then the last one of this list that I own, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I have this is it a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition or something? It's got pretty blue sprayed edges, and this I actually just found out. I didn't know, I maybe assumed it was, but I just found out that it is based on the actual story of Achilles. And I guess the author, Madeline Miller, did years and years of research to try and get it as accurate as possible and really showcase Achilles and his life. So pretty sure it just takes place in Greece. It's kind of like Greek mythology. Achilles' mom is a sea goddess or something, and his father is a king. There's war, and I heard it's very heartbreaking. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna really like it, to be honest. It's one of the kind of only books that I feel like usually I get books that I'm gonna love this book. I just have a feeling, and it's usually 4+ stars. I feel like I'm a really good judge of that, but this one I've heard different things on. I think I've heard some people just say it's not very exciting, it's kind of boring, but it would be cool to learn more about Achilles. So we'll see what I think of it. All right, I'm gonna just grab my little list now and read off of it. So I think I have 6 books left. So another one I wanna read is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I'm actually reading a book by T.J. Klune right now, Under the Whispering Door. Still early on, not 100% sure how I feel about it yet. But I have heard that people like The House in the Cerulean Sea better. So even if I don't like that one or love that one, I think I'll still give The House in the Cerulean Sea a shot and read it. I think it's about this guy that ends up going to this island or somewhere where there are different kids and people that live at this house. And they all have quirks or something, and I don't, that's not a very good explanation because I don't really know what it's about. I think in general his writing tends to be very heartwarming, more of that style, and I think more character driven as well. And then really, I added this next book for one reason, and that is because I heard one person talk about it, and that is one of my favorite booktubers, Ashlyn Kaylee. I think she's just finished it, and she hasn't really talked about it that much even yet, but I think once, and she was really liking it, and from what she said about it, it sounded really good. And I believe it is a fantasy. It is called A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. And you know what? I'm going to pull up my Kindle right here and just give you guys a little synopsis of what it's about because I don't even remember. Looks like it's part of a series. It's book 1. Looks like there's a second one. Sacred Stones is the series name.
So it says, it's a fantasy romance captured by the King of Darkness. She was forced to find the light within. Arwen never expected to be the brave one, offering her life to save her brothers. Now she's been taken prisoner by the most dangerous kingdom on the continent and made to use her rare magical abilities to heal the soldiers of the vicious Onyx King. Arwen knows better than to face the ancient wicked woods that surround the castle on her own, which means working with a fellow prisoner might be her only path to freedom. Unfortunately, he's as infuriating as he is cunning, and seems to take twisted pleasure in playing on Arwen's deepest fears. But here in Onyx Kingdom, trust is a luxury she can't afford. To make it out of enemy territory, she'll have to navigate backstabbing royals, dark magic, and dangerous beasts. But untold power lies inside Arwen, dormant and waiting for a spark. If she can harness it, she just might be able to escape with her life and hopefully her heart.
So yeah, again, I've literally heard like one thing about it, and I really trust Ashlyn's recommendations, and I feel like we have really similar tastes. So that's on the list. It was kind of one I added at the last second. Another one that I haven't heard a lot about is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. I know that she also wrote the Fable series, which is also on my more extended TBR. This is, I believe, just a standalone, so I feel like it would be a better start to her writing. And it is a fantasy. I think it has like time travel elements in it. Let me look. I really should know more about these books before going into this video. But I like to go into books blind.
Says, a woman risks everything to end her family's centuries-old curse, solve her mother's disappearance, and find love in this mesmerizing novel from the authors of Spells for Forgetting. Okay, apparently she also wrote that book. And then it says, Adrienne Young delivers a brilliant novel of romance, mystery, and a touch of the impossible.
So there's romance in it, but I believe I first heard of it by Haley Pham, and she rated it like 4.5 stars. And then The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. That book is, I think it's mostly a dystopian. I think it's like a young adult dystopian about the girls in the story when they're of a certain age, I think. They go through this thing called the Grace Year, and I don't really know what that all entails, but I heard it's kind of disturbing, but I don't mind a little bit of disturbingness. Anytime I find a good dystopian book to read, I give it a shot because I love dystopian books. So the last two I have are pretty much the only two solely romance books on this list, and they're very popular, and I don't read a ton of just plain romance, so I feel like these two would be good to start dipping my toe in more. And the first one is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I really could probably start with any of her STEM books, but I feel like I've heard the best things about that one, and I also think it's her first one. So yeah, it's about this girl who works in the like science career and romance ensues. I love saying that, but it's true. I don't really know. I don't know the tropes. I don't know much about it. I feel like I get all of them confused, so I'm not even gonna try. And then the very last one of this video to make my 24 books that I want to read in 2024 is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I recently for Christmas read her, I think, only Christmassy book, In a Holidays, or I keep saying her there, it's two people, and I really liked it. So I think I like her writing based on what I've read so far, and I feel like I've heard maybe the most good things about this book by them, so that would be a good next one to read by her. Them. That was really long. I feel like I was talking forever, and my phone kept running out of storage, so hopefully you guys liked this and maybe got some ideas for books you might want to read in 2024, and let me know if you've read any of these and if I should in fact read them. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!